Our story today follows the journey of a single mother who gets so wrapped up in her career that she forgets what it means to actually live. Meet Alice, a hardworking woman who has been employed at a lifestyle magazine for nearly a decade. Her devotion to her job is so consuming that she entrusts the care of her young daughter to her elder sister. At the moment, Alice is on assignment in Rio de Janeiro when she receives a call from her friend John. He mentions that back at the Paris office, a younger employee has been catching the boss's attention and is rumored to be in line for a promotion. The news unsettles Alice. She's poured years into this company, yet she hasn't been recognized in ages. Determined not to fall behind, Alice finishes her work quickly and books the next flight back to Paris. On that flight, an unusual encounter takes place. Due to a booking mix-up, a college student named Stefan gets bumped to business class and is seated beside Alice. While Stefan is dazzled by the experience, Alice buries herself in her laptop. Midway through landing, turbulence strikes, and Alice, terrified, instinctively grabs his hand. For Stefan, who's never had such closeness before, the moment is unforgettable. He quietly begins to admire her, though he says nothing. Once in Paris, Alice is greeted by her sister and daughter. Meanwhile, Stefan notices a forgotten USB drive under his seat, Alice's. He hurries after her, but by the time he gets outside, she's gone. Back at home, Alice's sister tries to introduce her to a doctor as a potential match. Alice brushes off the suggestion, uninterested in romance. Instead, she rushes to her office, where her colleagues gossip behind her back. Only John and her assistant, Claire, support her. Claire mentions that someone named Stefan had called about returning a USB drive, but Alice waves it off, saying she doesn't know him. Alice demands an explanation from her boss about why she's been overlooked for promotion. He bluntly tells her that her articles lack freshness and passion, and unless she finds inspiration from her personal life, she risks losing her job. He points to another writer, young, bold, and socially active, whose stories attract readers. Alice leaves, shaken. That night, she notices Claire's note again about the USB drive. Realizing it must be hers, she calls Stefan, who asks her to meet him at a local bar. When Alice arrives, she bumps into a few colleagues who are shocked to see her in such a place. Stefan later joins her and explains the drive is at his apartment. He offers her a ride on his scooter. Though hesitant, Alice agrees. Unbeknownst to them, her coworkers snap a sneaky photo of the two together and post it online, making it look like they're romantically involved. At Stefan's home, Alice meets his father briefly before retrieving her USB. Stefan offers her coffee, but Alice declines, saying she doesn't date younger men. Disappointed, Stefan lets her go. The next morning at work, Alice is stunned to see her photo with Stefan trending online. Her boss, however, is thrilled, calling this new version of Alice exciting and marketable. Confused, Alice turns to John, who suggests she lean into this perception and pretend to date Stefan for publicity. Alice resists at first but eventually agrees, telling herself it's just professional strategy. She visits Stefan's college, charming him with stories of her youth, and convinces him to join her at a social event. At the party, Alice deliberately pushes herself out of her comfort zone, drinking, mingling, even laughing freely. Stefan defends her honor when a man behaves inappropriately, winning Alice's admiration. Yet when her sister calls about dinner with the doctor, Alice lies to Stefan about her daughter's health and rushes home. Watching his care as he escorts her to a taxi, Alice begins to notice his sincerity. Over time, Alice continues using Stefan to enhance her public image. She even brings him to a fashion show, where his gallant act of helping a fallen model earns him unexpected praise. Slowly, Alice warms to him. One evening, after he drops her home, they share a vulnerable moment that leads to intimacy. But the next day, guilt overwhelms Alice. She distances herself, introducing Stefan as just a colleague when her family shows up unexpectedly. Despite her resistance, Alice can't hide her growing affection. They start spending more time together, and Stefan surprises her with small, thoughtful gestures. Still, when he asks why she chose him, Alice stays silent, unable to admit that their relationship began as a charade. Finally, Alice is rewarded with a promotion she's been chasing for years. But instead of joy, she feels torn, aware that she used Stefan as a stepping stone. When he proposes to her at his college auditorium, Alice is stunned. She tells him their age gap will only lead to problems, and ends things, breaking his heart. Alice's life unravels. She isolates herself, drowning in guilt. Stefan too changes, once bright and cheerful, now withdrawn. His father consoles him, urging him to move on. Weeks later, fate intervenes. The magazine's head rejects their latest campaign and decides Stefan would be a perfect fresh face for the brand, recalling him from the fashion show. Alice is ordered to recruit him. Reluctantly, she visits his home, but Stefan feels betrayed, realizing she's only there for work. On the day of the photo shoot, Stefan nearly doesn't show up. When he finally arrives, John confesses to him that the entire relationship was initially staged to boost Alice's career. Stefan, torn between anger and lingering love, kisses Alice in front of everyone, exposing the truth. Shocked, the staff watches the facade crumbles. Alice is fired for manipulation, losing everything in an instant. Heartbroken and unemployed, Alice drifts aimlessly, haunted by Stefan's memory. One day, overwhelmed, she returns to the same auditorium where he once proposed. In front of the students, she confesses her mistakes, admitting she lived for the future while neglecting the present. She apologizes to Stefan, weeping openly. Stefan, still deeply in love despite everything, forgives her. He takes her hand on stage, and the hall erupts in applause. From that day forward, Alice never lets go of Stefan again. Together, they leave behind the toxic world of gossip and publishing, starting their own venture built on honesty, respect, and love. And so, friends, this story reminds us, those who chase two paths at once often lose both, but when we find the courage to be true, life gives us a second chance.